morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we've got a new Zamazenta that we need to talk about. Just a few moments ago, an hour or two, we had a quick chat about the new Zacian, which is coming out in a theme deck for the new Rebel Clash set. Now we need to chat about Zamazenta, which is also coming out in a theme deck for the new Rebel Clash set. Is it better than Zacian? It would be the first Zamazenta to do so if it was. So starting off then, what we've got is 120 HP, which is fine. It's not as high as some of your beefier Pokemon, like Hooper or things of that nature, but it's not too bad, we can cope. We've got a retreat cost of 2, which just means we've got to use Air Balloon if we want free retreat, and we do have a weakness to fire, which sucks. Because Welder's like everywhere at the moment. Fire decks are great. That's a little bit upsetting. But we do like the resistance to grass and Rillaboom decks generally, because although they didn't have a great showing at the Oceania International Championships, you never know, they could be pretty good in the future. And you're a metal Pokemon. Now in terms of weakness, there's not really anything relevant at the moment that's weak, which is a bit upsetting, but it means that you've got Metal Saucer to accelerate a little bit of energy onto you, which you might want to do so. It means that you can use Metal Frying Pan to reduce damage done to you by 30 and take away your weakness, though do please remember that Tool Scrapper is being reprinted in the same set, and that could be a bit of an issue because they can get rid of your Metal Frying Pan and then hit you for weakness and go through that reduced damage. But you do also have Lucario and Melmetal. GX attack reduces damage done to all of your metal Pokemon by 30 for the remainder of the game. That could be something that is incredibly useful as you go through the game. So there's things to like about being a metal Pokemon, but do we like the attacks? Well, the first attack, 1 metal, 1 colorless, 30 damage. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 20 less from attacks. And this is a kind of attack we've seen on a bunch of metal Pokemon lately, and frankly, it's the kind of attack the metal Pokemon can really take advantage of. I mean, this just ends up being a weaker version of Copperaja V. Now, it is a significantly weaker version of Copperaja V, but bearing in mind, when I did my video about that Pokemon, I was fairly effusive in my praise. Now, it is interesting to note that the Elite Trainer box is actually themed around Copperaja. Well, Gigantamax Copperaja, which is really interesting because it tends to be legendaries or new exciting Pokemon or things of that nature. Having just a regular Gigantamax Pokemon as a focus of an ETB, that's weird and unusual, and we don't usually see it, but given my love for Copperaja, which I don't think I've been particularly shy about expressing, I am totally okay with that. My point here is that Copperaja for free energy did 90 and reduced damage done to it next turn by 30. This does 30 for 1 less energy and reduces damage done to it next turn by 20. It's also got 100 less natural HP. But you add Metal Frying Pan and you've got no weakness and damage done to you is reduced by 30. And I mentioned that Lucario and Melmetal a minute ago, so damage done to you is reduced by 30. And all of a sudden damage done to you next turn is reduced by 80. And you no longer have a weakness, and this can be pretty gosh darn big. Let's take something like the Volcanion from Unbroken Bonds. Great Pokemon if you go second in a fire deck. You get to search your deck for free fire energy and attach them to your Pokemon in any way that you like. Otherwise, it's just 1 if you didn't go second on your first turn. But 2 energy, 50 damage with 4 more energy on, you do 110. So Volcanion should be doing 110. Double with weakness is 220, they actually get a KO with 100 damage to spare. But now if you've used this attack, you've got a Metal Frying Pan, you've got a Lucario and Melmetal's GX attack having gone off, and they do 30 damage. 30 damage. Damage so low it can literally be wiped away using a potion. Let's take something like Arceus and Dialga and Palkia. Now, what they're going to do is use their GX attack so that they do an extra 30 damage, all the Pokemon do, and take an extra prize. But they've got a really nice attack for free energy that does 150 and accelerates free basic energy from the deck to your Pokemon. Well, ordinarily, they'd be doing 180 damage, they'd be getting an easy KO, and they'd be taking 2 prizes. But if you're taking 80 less damage from attacks, then instead of doing 180, they're doing 100, they're not even getting a KO. I'm not saying this has to be the absolute focus of your deck, but I'm saying if you're playing a metal deck, you should be using Lucario and Melmetal's GX attack, at least in a lot of builds. And if you're playing a metal deck, you're using Metal Frying Pan. By the way, when I say using Lucario and Melmetal, I know Zacian ADP doesn't use that, but it's also a very, very different, not strictly metal deck, if you get what I mean. So if you're playing a defensive metal deck, which really is the way to play, here is a non-GX attacker. You're not doing a lot of damage in the early game, but what you are doing is reducing a bunch of damage, buying yourself some time. It's a nice early game Pokemon. But it can do decent damage as well. You add a third energy on there and you're doing 120 damage. And then you flip a coin if tails during your next turn this Pokemon can't attack. And let's quickly look at this whole not attacking next turn thing. Why do you care? Like, we've had this on so many Pokemon in the past. Volcanion EX? Didn't matter. Boswell GX? Didn't matter. Lapras GX? Didn't matter. Ho-Oh GX? Didn't matter. There's been a million Pokemon over the years that couldn't attack next turn, and nobody cared. You just switched out. And if you're switching around, you might as well whack a Jirachi in the active, use a ridiculous ability to get a trainer card, and then free retreat with a skateboard. There, boom, done. Watch out for Absol, though. We'll stop you retreating. So, yeah, it's fine. You can either switch out, or you can cross your fingers to flip heads, because if you flip heads, you're fine, or you can actually use Will. And will guarantee that you flip a heads, and then you can definitely attack next turn, if that's the kind of stuff you're into. It's free energy 120. It's the same as the Zacian we looked at earlier. The only difference is, and as a side note, right, this is a better attack than Zacian. Because Zacian's attack, flip a coin if tails, discard 2 energy, you've got to get the energy back on. That can be awkward. One of the best ways to do that is using Metal Saucer, but you've got to get to the bench to use Metal Saucer, so you've probably got to get to the bench anyway. Whereas Zamazenta, if you flip a tails, get to the bench, come active, you're fine. So I like the second attack better. And in terms of the damage here, you're good. I mean, look, there's a whole bunch of non-GX Pokemon, non-V Pokemon that you're going to be KOing. Volcanion I've already mentioned, Jirachi I've already mentioned, Absol I've already mentioned. These are widely played single prize Pokemon, all of whom you will KO fairly easily. If you're hitting for weakness, I mean, let's say Gardevoir and Sylveon suddenly becomes really popular, you would need a Vitality Band to get a KO here. The thing is, not only are there no Metal Weak Pokemon that are really relevant and good at the moment, there's not gonna be. Pretty much half of the top cut in the Oceania International Championships was Zacian V-Decks. You cannot play anything that's weak to Metal at the moment unless it's got less than 220 HP, and Zacian will be getting an automatic one-hit KO anyway. I said 220, I meant 230. It's all good when he's got 220 and does 230, alright? My point is, you're not going to be hitting anything for weakness, so you're basically getting single prize Pokemon, and it's fine. You've got Metal Saucer to accelerate energy, maybe in the middle of the game you drop a Solgaleo and accelerate a bunch of energy. It's alright. It's fine. It's a nice tech, it's a nice support Pokemon. Essentially what you've got here is, early game, I'm going to buy some time by tanking. Mid to late game, hey look, I've got a decent non-GX attack. And in my previous video, I said that Zacian was a decent attacker with ADP, because you're doing 150 and taking an extra prize when you take a KO. That goes for Zamazenta as well. Same attack cost, same amount of damage. And if for a second we put them side by side, for the very first time in the TCG, I prefer Zamazenta. The stats, the basic stats are all the same, but Zamazenta's got a better second attack. I'd rather not be able to attack on a coin flip than discard 2 energy on a coin flip, because if I discard 2 energy, I'm not attacking anyway. Not unless I piled 4 energy on to begin with and then only have to attach 1, but I'm not doing that. And the first attack, accelerating energy to yourself is alright, especially in the early game where you've got absolutely nothing if you're having a terrible start, but most of the time I'd rather have a bit of tanking. So I'm going to give Zamazenta free Wassies. If you're playing a defensive metal deck, I think this is a nice single prize attacker. If you need a metal attacker in something like ADP, I think this is a decent metal attacker. I don't think it's a phenomenal card, but I do think it's a decent little tech in a bunch of different decks. So I think 3 Wassies is fair. Put a copy in your binder. You never know when you might need it. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to know what you think about it. So, let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but are pretty gosh darn awesome nonetheless. But by far the most important thing is always, look after yourselves till next time. That'd be lovely. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.